Hello, 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 and welcome to the Blue Oval Podcast. I am Ben Weissel, and joining me, as always, Garrett Zalin. How's it going, man?
Ben, I would say that we missed you on the last podcast episode, but frankly, Mike and Rachel kind of killed it. I'm just
They
saying.
did. They did. I mean, you had to get two people to fill in for just me, so I will take a little solace in that compared to the normal zero people that
Right.
sometimes you fill in for. So I'll take it. But yeah, great job by you guys. It was a really exciting weekend. I was bummed to miss it, but I was up in the Northeast visiting some family, had a great time, and now I'm right back in to be able to preview the indoor national championships. Can't believe we are at yet another national championship. It feels like just a couple weeks ago that we were wrapping up the fall cross country season, but here we are once again. So that's gonna be the main conceit of the show. We're not even gonna have any of the charming banter back and forth. We're going straight into it. We didn't really get any ratings and reviews, so again, after this podcast, after nationals, we expect those to increase. But indoor national previews, we got a loaded show. So why don't we dive in? We are going to
Ben,
go.
can I real quick?
Yes,
Can I
go
real
ahead.
quick interrupt you? One quick note of business, other than the ratings and reviews, like you mentioned. Shout out to On, by the way. We're getting
Yes,
sponsored by
yes, yes,
On.
yes.
On's helping us and partnering with us for this upcoming week of championship coverage and for the championships. So between all the three national meets, D1, D2, D3, we will have not one, not two, but 8 freelancers on the ground, 6 of which will be at the D1 championships. And in addition to all of our previews, our predictions, in addition to this podcast, we're going to have interviews with some of the on NIL athletes. We will be following them. We'll be having just so much content in the next week, especially as the championships roll around. So big shout out to On, and stay tuned for some really great content coming up.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you highlighted that before I bulldozed on, and we're going to be talking about some on NIL
Yeah.
athletes in the course of this conversation. So yeah, huge shout out there. So the way we're going to do our preview is how we usually do it. We're gonna pick our favorite in that event. We're gonna pick a dark horse or a sleeper candidate, and then we're gonna pick a wild card or X factor. So this could be, hey, someone that kind of, depending on their performance or the way they run the race, could change the race significantly, or they just have a lot of volatility, right? They could finish top three, they might not make finals. There's a couple of those usually in each of these type of events. And then dark horse is just, or the sleeper is someone that's maybe in the back half of the performance list, or not expected to really contend, but is someone that we think can surprise a lot of people this week. And we're going to go in order of the event final during the scheduled indoor national championship. So with that said, we're going to start with the 5K, and let's start on the men's side. Now, this is an interesting one. Not everybody that we were expecting to compete in, probably, what were we thinking, in December,
Right.
is going to be competing in this national championship. Not to say that it's a weak field, but it's not quite as strong as what we thought it could have been at the beginning of this year. Who is your favorite or favorites to take home the title in the men's 5K?
I am heavily inclined to say that my favorite is Haptom Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I look at it is there is no one in this field, for as good as everyone else is, there is no one in this field that is as aerobically dominant as
Yep.
he is. And I imagine that at some point, a little past halfway of this race, he is going to be the aggressor and push and push and push. The question is that will that tactic, like, can anyone realistically hang with him? And if they can't, then how do they beat him? Now, the counter to that is, well, he is historically not as good on the indoor oval as he is the outdoor oval. This field is still plenty stacked, and other guys have better turnover than him and maybe a bit more
Mm-hmm.
proven championship acumen. So if I'm really forced to stretch it, I would say it's Samuel, Yassin Abdallah, and Liam Murphy. Those are my three.
Yeah, yeah, and I had the same group, and I was really struggling to say that Samuel is like really the favorite. I have him as 1A, I think, out of respect for what he's done over the last 6 to 8 months. But I do have some concerns about how he's going to be able to execute his style of racing in this championship. It's the indoor oval, like you mentioned. It's the 5K, which again, he's more of a 10K runner. How is he going to be able to put the pedal to the metal hard enough to be able to get away from some of these guys? Because you look at Murphy, you look at Yassim Abdallah, both have run 13:10 or faster. It He's going to have to run something in the low 13s, I think, to be able to run away from them. If he's running anything slower, they're going to be with him with 400 to go. And my money's on Murphy, really, if that's the case. And so I almost have Murphy in that 1A position just because I don't know how likely it is that he's going to get dropped. And if he's not dropped, I don't see anybody in this field beating him in the last 400.
And I completely agree. I think Murphy is probably, if he's there with 2-3 laps to go, he's the last guy I want to face. He really
Right.
is. Maybe with the exception, maybe like a few other guys who are maybe more underclassmen, but it's hard to kind of get behind the idea of a sophomore like Marco Langone or Rocky Hansen kind of
Mm-hmm.
coming out on top quite yet at this
Yep.
point in their career. It's not impossible, but it's unlikely. I think the funniest part is that from a long distance, like kind of 3K up, or maybe just an overall, I think Yassin Abdallah is maybe just as qualified
Yeah.
as Murphy in this case to be a title contender. I have a lot of hesitancy with Abdallah being the national title contender when he has struggled a bit in the past. Again, as we have said throughout the season, he's at a different level right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I don't think I'm taking Yassin Abdallah. I'm kind of caught between Murphy and Samuel. I do think Samuel's the 1A consensus favorite, but whether or not that's who I take, not sure yet.
Yeah, and Abdallah's kind of right in the middle, right? He's
Right.
probably a little more aerobically strong than Murphy, but not as good as Samuel. He probably has a little bit of a better kick than Samuel, but not
Yep.
as good as Murphy. So it's like
Yep.
it's hard to say you pick him over one of these two guys because each of these other guys have a better strength in terms of either the aerobic fitness or the last kick. So that's where I don't want to take any credit away from Abdallah. He's been amazing this year,
Mhm.
but that is where I think both of us have some hesitancy there. So with that said, who is your dark horse in this field?
See, here's the thing. I gotta be honest. Past like in the bottom half of the field, I don't like. I just don't like.
There's only one name I like, and I don't even know if he qualifies as a sleeper because he's been around the NCAA for so long, been one of the top guys.
So you like Casey Klinger?
I do, especially coming off of a conference championship title. Like he knows he knows how to run these races. Now, I think he's going to realistically challenge for the win? No, but is there honestly? He's probably the guy I feel the best about maybe cracking into that top 3 that we just talked about. Maybe there's maybe a couple guys ahead of him, maybe Brian Massau, Patrick Kiprop. But honestly, I like his chances at a top 3 finish as good as anybody in this field outside of our favorites.
I'm just not there on Klinger this season. I actually thought I've been a little underwhelmed by Klinger this season. There's been some races that have been better than others. I agree that the Big 12 meet was a
Yeah,
really nice, like, hey, let's get back on track, like, no pun
right.
intended. And I think there was a really nice result for him. I still don't feel just as confident in him right now as I do a few others. The problem is that I don't trust the tactical execution of Ishmael Kipkiri of New Mexico or Patrick Kiprop of Arkansas. I think Brian Massau is a fantastic all-around runner. I don't know if he's quite at the same level as he was back in December or back in the fall months or back in prior spring seasons, right? The guys that I have trouble with are Marco Langone and Rocky Hansen, both
Mm-hmm.
sophomores. The lack of experience, the question of are you really at that level yet? It's hard to kind of ignore. And yet, on paper, these guys are they're not really that far off from the Liam Murphy, the Yassine Abdallah. Maybe there's a few marks that are definitively different, but like Langone really isn't that far off. Rocky Hansen just split 350 in the DMR.
Yep.
It's things like that where I go, man, how different are they? And so I'm going to take them as my sleeper, but the lack of experience and the just general youth do scare me a little bit.
Well, and that's a great transition because I actually had both of those guys as my like wild card X factor because
Okay.
of a lot of the same things. I think Rocky Hansen in particular is the guy that I look at and say he's the guy that can disrupt all our predictions, right?
Yep.
When we're going into this. He's the guy that absolutely I think he could stick with this group, that front group, and just maybe slip past a few people right at the end. He clearly has that speed that we've seen in the DMR leg. But I also could see, hey, the relative lack of experience, maybe getting a little over his skis, trying to run with that top group too early on and then getting burnt out and ending up finishing in the back half. I think that's certainly possible. But he's really that guy that I think could change how we see this race because he could just be. What we were talking about Murphy having the best kick. I mean, Hansen's someone that if it ends up being like a little bit of a longer kick, 600, 800 out, you might like his chances if he's right there with them. So again, I'm not predicting that, but I think he's someone to keep a very close eye on. Langone, I mean, he's just had a fantastic season. What else can you expect from him other than really a top half finish at this point? Because he's done everything you could expect. We just haven't seen him actually do it at a national championship in the 5K.
What's more likely, Langone finishes in the top 5 or outside the top 5?
Ooh, I think inside the top 5.
I don't
I
disagree.
really like his chances. I do. And I think he's there's some volatility there, but just like Hansen, but I really do like his chances in this race.
So my X factors, and as we kind of mentioned earlier, my X factor, my definition of that is someone who, or in this case, I guess it's like a wild card.
Mhm.
It's someone that you don't really know what to expect, or someone that could really alter this race in a significant way. And for me, I look at guys like Arkansas's Patrick Kiprop,
Yeah.
New Mexico's Ishmael Kipkiri. I look at Washington State's Evan Karui. Guys who are aggressive front runners, who are admittedly a little inconsistent, some more than others. Kiprop has been better from a consistency standpoint, but those guys are aggressive front runners. They don't lack, they kind of lack a kick and some late speed turnover. And some races have been tactically better than others. But if they opt to be the aggressors, then all of a sudden,
Yep.
Hampton Samuel's ability to control this race in his way that he would like to dictate suddenly becomes a bit more limited from that perspective. So those guys, the Karui, the Kip Karui,
Kiprop.
and Kiprop, those three guys are like my main three wild cards. Like, how dangerous are you going to be? Are you guys really going to screw up this race for guys who maybe have, set plans, and then will your plans actually execute to the way that you're envisioning them?
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. And I do think though Kip Karui will be working with his teammate Samuel. Like I
That's fair.
wonder
Yeah.
I think there could be a plan for both of them just to say, hey, let's alternate laps or alternate like mile or 800s, whatever it is, just to hey, we are going to put the pedal to the metal here. We're going to knock out some of these guys just through like 3K just because we've pushed the pace so hard and we don't have to do it all by ourselves because we have each other to lean on. So I do think there's some possibility of some team tactics there, but I agree with the sentiment as a whole that there's a lot of guys in here who have run incredibly fast times, but we're just not talking about them at the top because everybody's run insanely fast. So when it comes to, hey, do you prefer to run at the front? These guys could end up disrupting the flow just because of their preference for that.
All right, let's head off to the women's 5K here. And I'm curious, before you tell me how many national title favorites do you have?
So I have a boring answer. I have like one in her
Oh,
own
yeah.
tier, and then I think there's like three. I think in the tier below.
In total or in.
And so I have my true favorite who is Doris
Right.
Lemngole, but then I have 3 women behind her that I
Interesting.
feel like are the prime contenders, behind Lemngole.
Okay. And who are those three?
So I have Hilda Olamame, Lexi Holiday Lowry, and Amy Bunnage. I don't have Pamela
You
Kosgei,
do
which is
not.
the one person that I think is you can make an argument for it, but I don't see a world where she wins the title necessarily. I don't. She's kind of in that Abdallah zone where I don't think she's better at anything than any of those 4 women.
Mm.
And now she's great, but I don't see her in her first indoor championships taking home this title. I think she's all American lock. I think she'll finish in the top 5 almost certainly, but I don't really have her in that real true challenger tier.
Yeah. So my national title favorite is Doris Lemngole. I think she is the like if you forced us to make a hard cut,
Yeah.
it'd be Lemngole as the favorite, right? Um, Here's where I get tricky. I think Lexi Holiday Lowry is the other title contender.
Hmm.
I haven't loved what I've seen from Florida's Hilda Olamamwe
Yeah.
recently. She hasn't looked great. She struggled a bit in that Milrose 3K, which again, 8:51 in the 3K is hardly a knock, but then runs 8:57 in the 3K SECs, falls to Doris by 2 seconds, which again, races in championship settings a little different. I just haven't felt as like convinced by her.
Hmm.
Whereas I question is, like you said, Pamela Kosgei, she's incredibly consistent, an aggressive
Hmm.
front runner. This field probably favors her, but is there a definitive skill set of hers that really allows her to separate from the pack? Amy Bunnage, she has been beyond awesome this season, like across the board, just not just more fit, but way more refined.
Hmm.
And yet, I don't know if she's quite there yet. She might be. I don't know if she's quite there yet to get gold. So I can't believe I'm saying this. I think it's Lemengole and I think it's Holiday Lowry, and I'm going to go with those two.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I don't disagree with either of those 2 names. The only thing that I will say about Bunnage is I don't think there's been a significant difference between her and Holiday Lowry this year necessarily. Like they've run. I mean, Holiday Lowry's run faster, obviously, but I don't think it's been a sizable gap. And I think if you look at both of them, hey, if they're both there with a couple laps to go, you would favor Holiday Lowry, but I don't think by a sizable amount, right? I think there's a chance that Bunnage could win that. So I agree though. I think it's Lemongold's race to lose. I really struggle to see her if she's running at the top of her game being caught by anybody because no one can reach the same heights that she can. But I mean, we've seen crazier things happen at a championship race.
So who are your sleeper picks?
My sleeper pick is Bunnage's teammate, Sophia Kennedy. I think again, I don't predict her to really disrupt that group, but I do think if you're looking outside of that top 5 that we've talked about, someone that could get in there that isn't Peyton Noe, like or Grace Harmon that are all American favorites in my mind, someone a little bit further down that list, I think Kennedy has a shot. She'll have a teammate to run with. She's shown a higher upside, I think, this year than we've seen previously, and she's going to have a great coaching staff. She has a good father who can help her with the tactics, who's been there, won national championships
It's
before.
true.
I like her to execute fairly well and finish higher up than expected.
Yeah, she is. And at this point, like, we say, oh, she could finish higher up as expected. At this point, I don't even know if like it would be a surprise if she was
True.
5th or
Yeah.
6th. At this point, she's just on fire, and like
Yeah.
it's just an unreal. Like you don't want to say that she's having a breakout season because you could see this rapid, very
Yep.
steady trend, and yet it's still so significant to the point where you're like, this is one of the this. I don't know if there's anyone in the nation relative to their skill set that has more momentum than she does right now. I just don't think it's the case.
Yeah. Well, won't argue with you on that. How about you as far as a sleeper?
I would have said Kennedy. I don't really like a lot of these women as
Yeah,
sleeper
I
picks.
don't either.
I will take Elise Stearns. I think Stearns is at a different level right now. I think
Yeah.
that 8:41 3K was incredibly encouraging. I think she's going to be. I think she's better built for the 5K despite her 3K
Yep.
performance. And I think this field is going to favor her skill set. I think it's going to favor her strengths. I'll probably end up picking her as an All-American. I really like Stearns. I think she's just an underrated name right now. And I think, we've seen her when she is firing on all cylinders. She is one of the scariest women in the NCAA to face. And I'm going to go with Stearns here as my sleeper.
As far as an X factor, I have Peyton Noe because she's on a heater as well. Just ran 15:11. How does she decide to run her race, right? I think that's interesting. I think the other person that you could put in this like wild card category is Pamela Kosgei, because I think both of them, it'll be interesting to see how they approach this tactically. Does Kosgei try to stick right on Lemongole's heels the entire race? Or does she try to push the pace even faster than Lemngole, thinking, hey, this is my only shot, right? What does Noe do now after running the 15:11 and clearly being in fantastic shape? Does this push her to say, hey, I'm going to be aggressive and try to run with this front pack? Or does she hold back a little bit and then try to pick people off? I think you can make a compelling argument based off of what she just did that either of those strategies would be the best. So I'll be very interested in keeping a close eye on her early in the race to see what she does.
I think she's going to be fairly aggressive. I don't think she's going to be afraid to go
Yep.
with these moves. I mean, you look at how the postseason of the cross country season went, how the BU 5K season opener went, how her recent 5K SECs went. She has like consistently
No
been
fear.
willing. Yeah, no fear. She's been willing to go against these women and follow. She's like, I don't really give like a damn if Doris Lemengole is the best long distance runner in the country. I will follow. And I think she's going to do that. The question for me is, or are you going to be able to follow her and Olamamwe and Halliday Lowry and Bunnage and Kosgei? Are you going to be able to do that and then not be burned at the end as a result? And I think that's the big question there. My
And
X
I
factor,
think the only reason I think she might not is, again, Arkansas is so focused on points, right? They are
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
hesitant to put her in a strategy that risks some points. If she holds back a little bit, there's a lot more guarantee of her scoring points. That's the only pushback that I give there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. My X factor, my wild card, is the last seed in this race. It's North Dakota's Jaden Keeler, uh, who who had never run faster than 15:57, regardless of conversions, over 5,000 meters, until she ran 15:28 at the Boston U Valentine Invitational, running 15:28 there. Went on to then sweep 3 titles, mile, 3K, 5K at the Summer League Championships. She's made improvements, subtle improvements, but nothing to that level. If I'm her, I have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. Go for it. Go. Like the fact that she made the national meet is
Unbelievable.
beyond unbelievable, beyond especially in this, like where the 5K could be argued as the most stacked it's ever been in, or at least for this national meet, I should say. Like I think the fact that she made it, what do you have to lose? You've had one race where you've really been pushed, against a top tier field so far this season, and it just happened to result in a massive PR. Do it again. What you can't hurt.
Absolutely. Yeah, filling out the All-Americans for this race is going to be impossible. Like,
Yeah.
we got through 5 or 6 names where, like, yeah, we feel like they're All-American locks, and then you're like 4 or 5 names who are pretty established. Like,
Yeah.
is Chloe Scrimger going to be an All-American? She
I'm
could,
having a tough one
but
there.
like,
Yeah.
she's been, but like, it's going to be a hard field for her to do it this year. So yeah, I think Keeler's a great pick. She'll be. I mean, yeah, it'll be an awesome experience for her no matter what. But let's move on to the men's DMR, and this is fascinating. So if you haven't read Garrett's scratch reactions, they're worth their amount of gold because of what we just saw with Ethan Strand and Gary Martin, 2:3:48 guys scratching out of the mile, presumably to run the DMR. Now we just have a absolutely loaded DMR field. I think you have to put North Carolina and Virginia at the top, in my mind. I don't know if you feel like any other team deserves to be in that top tier with them.
No, no, not with Ethan Strand and Gary Martin on the anchor legs. I mean, at that point, those are just the better ones. And UVA from a entirety of their lineup is just more complete than UNC. But UNC probably gonna question who's put on that leadoff leg and who's put on that anchor leg for UNC. Because are we really gonna have a 5K guy in Parker Wolf drop down to the 12 when he can split 351, 352 on the anchor, while Ethan Strand would undoubtedly be the best 1,200-meter leg in the country if he ran it?
Right.
What do they do?
I think they got to go Wolf in the in the first leg. I know he's dropping down, but I mean he's run fantastic miles before. It's not as if you're leaving like 4 seconds on the table here. You're maybe leaving a couple seconds on the table by going with Wolf over Strand, and then just having who I'm sure they think is the best miler in the country anchoring your relay. You're gonna want that guy in that 1600 leg. So yeah, but it'll be fascinating. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago about what was the possibilities of them doing this. And we kind of said there was like some game theory there or some prisoner's dilemma about it.
Yep.
And it ended up, they both just moved on. I wonder if they were both kind of expecting
They both
like one
swerved.
of them. Right, exactly.
They're playing a game of chicken, and they're like, if I stay here long enough, the other guy will drop, in theory, right? Like, not that they could know who was going to drop what, but the other guy will drop, and I'll have the mile to myself against Nathan Green. In fact, they both got scared, theoretically, and then both swerved at the same time, and now Nathan Green has an open walkway to the mile national title. Nathan Green's like, I'm the smartest human being on planet Earth, like, just by happenstance, so... Yeah, wild. The funniest thing I think that could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as a sleeper though, so we have Virginia, we have North Carolina as the favorites. Who is your sleeper?
So sleeper in the sense of like could beat them. Honestly, I don't even know if there's any other team that could realistically beat them. Wake Forest is not going to have Rocky Hansen since he's running the 5K. Oklahoma State has been good, but they're not going to have Brian Massow. And as much as I like Alex Stitt on the opener, I don't think he's going to be the differentiator. And as much as I like Ryan Shoppy, there's no chance that he loses to both. He beats both Martin and Strand. Princeton's going to have Harrison Witt doubling back from the mile, presumably, which kind of lowers their chances. Yeah. To me, I have to say it, and I don't want to be the homer here. Virginia Tech is completely fresh.
Yeah.
They have the most balanced lineup. They have arguably the best 1,200-meter leg in the country if Strand does not run the opening leg. And they are historically built for the DMR. And they have a substantially better anchor leg in George Cootie than they did last year. I'm not saying that they're going to win the national title because they're not. They're not going to win the national title. But I think it's also easy to overlook the fact that they also have the best 400-meter leg in the country. Actually, he's not listed. Psych, I take that back. He's not listed. I was thinking Judson Lincoln. But regardless, I like Virginia Tech. I think they're the most balanced lineup among the non-national title contenders.
I have Wisconsin. Spencer's fresh, but I echo pretty much everything that you just said. Like I don't feel particularly strong about any of those. As far as like an X factor or just someone maybe that a team that you think is going to exceed expectations going into this race.
My wild card is probably Texas A&M because I could see Texas A&M being like, oh my God, they got third. Yep. And then being like, actually, you guys didn't belong here. You're 12th, like you're last. And I think anything in between is very realistic. I don't really know. Like a lot of these guys are inexperienced, but they're high upside and they're on a crazy streak of momentum. What do you get from Whitmarsh? It's hard to say. And then the other ones is Oregon, right? Like
you picked both of them. You picked both.
I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have jumped ahead here. But you tell me about Oregon. I mean, it feels like a fairly like a clear choice.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy case to make, right? I think Elliott Cook is probably going to be their anchor leg. He's been looking pretty strong lately, but hasn't run anything fast enough to qualify in the mile. Reinhard Harrison is great middle distance runner. Connor Burns has been awesome lately. Like they just had James Harding put together a good leg a couple weeks ago to qualify them for this meet. They have a lot of, and if Erickson decides to double back, which I don't think he will, but then there's some potential there. They just have a very well-rounded lineup, similar to A&M, that is going to be fresh and is going to just finish higher up by just being fresh, basically.
Their 400-meter leg ran 49 seconds and their qualifying efforts. How do I phrase this question?
You gotta have a distance runner that's faster
right? When I think they just flat out have other guys that are faster.
Yeah.
But my question is this: what needs to happen for this team to finish in the top 4? Is it just the 400-meter leg?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. Because I don't think them finishing in the top 4 is that like out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, you have your top 2. You probably have Oklahoma State, but then all those teams that we just mentioned, Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, A&M, Oregon, like there's really a strong possibility that any of those teams finish 4th, like, if they just run a good, clean, solid race.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, I'm moving us off of that, and I'm going to the women's DMR. I don't want to answer this because I'm scared.
I don't like this.
Is or are your national title favorites in the women's DMR?
Because this was the one that took me the longest when I was doing my prep. I was like, I have no idea. I put down, just because you look at the 8 women that they have listed. Now, some of these women could be doubling back, but you just look at the 8 women and you're like, there's just too much talent here. And I put down Oregon. The other team that I was considering, and probably would have if you wiped this entire indoor season from my memory, would have been Providence.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen what they've done this year, and it's been not bad, but underwhelming. And so I would have liked to have picked them, but I ended up going with Oregon.
So BYU is they have 3 alternates listed in Carly Hansen, in Kylie Olson, and Sammy Oblad. So Riley Chamberlain's probably going to be doubling back from the mile. And she did the DMR 3K last year. She helped BYU win the DMR national title. Big reason there. But they're not going to have Megan Hunter, who's probably going to be doubling back, or who almost certainly won't be doubling back from the 800 meters. And then maybe they have Carmen Alder coming
who would
off
also
of the
be
mile.
doubling back from the mile.
She would be doubling back, but does that really make as much sense as just fielding a fresh Carly Hansen in this lineup? Is BYU in the same national title contention range and territory as Oregon?
I just don't see it.
Really?
I think I don't know. I think if Chamberlain does run, even if she's doubling back, then probably just because she's that good. But and we've seen, like, and I'll talk about them in a little bit, but Stanford, obviously, with their top duo doubling back, they won a national title doing that. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to do. I don't know. I guess they are in that same category, because really this field just feels so flat. Like there's no one that really stands out that much.
Exactly. That's my argument. It's like, I don't love that it's either Alder coming back on the double or Hansen. I don't love the fact that they're going to have Hunter out. I don't love that they have Tessa Buswell as a freshman in this lineup. And yet what I don't love either is that Stanford's probably not going to have like anywhere close to their max lineup. No. Northern Arizona, they could, but they would have a lot of doubling back women. Washington, at the bare minimum, is not going to have Amina Matug, right? Oregon, going to have a B lineup. Utah, I don't think there is proven. North Carolina will not have Michaela Page. Georgetown, I don't think we feel amazing about. Harvard, Sophia Gordieron and Victoria Bossong are both running the 800-meter prelims. NC State has no Grace Hartman. LSU is going to have women doubling back. Providence, we're not confident about. And when you kind of go through, I'm like, I don't really like anyone. And so
NC State will probably have Hartman, right?
No, she's in the 5K.
Oh, she's in a 5K. Gosh. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
from that perspective, I'm like, yeah, I don't love what the alternates could be for BYU, and yet it's still
Yeah.
just as good as anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I mean, I think, yeah, put them in there with Oregon and Providence in my mind. And then as far as a sleeper team, I put North Carolina, and I don't like it, but you look at it, they're only missing Page, right? And they have passable substitutions there. I am convincing myself as I'm saying it. I don't love it, but that was the team that I came up with.
Yeah, I would have been way more high on Northern Arizona, but like there's no Allison Churchill, there's no Nikita Moore listed.
Yeah.
Like I like Agnes McTeague, and I think Kiki Vaughn could be fine, but if Carlson and Congdon aren't doubling back, then who is then who do they have? Again, if the alternates listed were women who I think were more proven, I wouldn't have an issue with this, but I'm struggling a little bit there. I think I'm with you. I think I'll probably go Georgetown because I think a doubling Melissa Riggins is still pretty decent in this field, and I like Charlotte Tompkinson, and I don't think the rest of this lineup's all that poor. So I guess Georgetown, but I don't love that necessarily.
And then my wild card X factor was Stanford, just because hey, if they double back Whitaker, Willis, like this they've done it before, right? Now, do I think they'll necessarily do that? I don't know, but if they do, they have the talent to be able to at least be competitive. And who knows what maybe Whitaker and the anchor leg could do against a group of anchor legs that isn't all that compelling, honestly.
Pretty much the same reason as why I'm taking Providence as my X factor / wild
Right.
card.
Yeah.
Is pretty straightforward. Real quick before we move on, why do we hate Utah?
Yeah. That's a good
Fresh,
question.
ran 1042.
Yeah.
They're the only fresh lineup I think in this field,
Yeah. You know
anyways.
what? They're probably the best lock to finish in like the top four.
Top four, really?
I mean, all the teams we just talked about, like you could see, like
Are they
depending on
all
who they
American
run.
locks? Are they all American locks?
I think so, absolutely. I mean, you're a fresh team that ran 1042. Like,
I know. I just don't trust that
yeah,
lineup.
I
I have
understand
to
that,
be
but
honest.
I just think there's so much volatility with all these other lineups that
Yeah, that's true.
you can almost pencil them in for like at least a fifth place finish in my mind.
I'm not quite that high, but I see where you're coming from. So, all right, where are we going to next?
Let's go on to the men's mile, and we briefly touched on it already, but with the scratches, I think it's Nathan Green's race to lose, correct?
Correct. What's the percent chance that he loses? Is there like a 10% chance that he loses? Is there a 5%
Oh, I
chance that
think
he
I think it's
loses?
higher than that. It's just
Really?
in a mile field where you're racing twice, right? So you have to execute twice. I think we would imagine it's going to be very easy for him to get through prelims, but weird stuff happens. And then it's depending on how it's run. I mean, there's guys with great kicks in here. You have Colin Solomon, who we thought would maybe be better served running the 800. Like he obviously has a ton of speed. Now I think Green's the overwhelming favorite, but I have him probably at like a let's say 70% chance of winning, which I think is still a very high favorite. But I think there's in the mile, if this was the 5K, I think I would have been like at 80-90%, where it's like, hey, you're just clearly the best guy. You can just outrun everybody. You're not going to get tangled in legs, and it's not just there isn't as much volatility there. But in the mile, that's the only reason I'm having a little bit lower.
Who's his biggest threat? Is it Solomon?
I think it's Solomon. Yeah, just because again, he's I think the only other guy that has the leg speed and the top end ability that can really match Green. You look at the rest of this group, and there isn't anybody else that you really feel like can match both of those things with Green.
Yeah, I would maybe try to argue Tefra, but I think at the end, the raw talent, the pedigree, It's just not to the same extent as maybe as it would be for Solomon, as it would be for Green. Do I have a good reason for that? No, but just leave me alone. So I'm with you. I think it's Green. It's pretty clear cut. The sleeper picks, I mean, again, if you really want to get like sleepers for the title picks, I think it's again Solomon, Tefra. Maybe we really like Harrison Witt. Maybe who else though?
I had Laban Kit Kemboy as another guy.
Oh,
I think he's an interesting sleeper candidate, right? He's run 353, coming off of a Big 12 title, beating Masaudi in an extremely tactical race. I liked what I saw there. And now, do I do I think he's going to be able to beat either of the top two guys we mentioned? No, but you can put together a compelling argument for it, which I really struggle to do that with almost anyone else.
I love Ruben Reyna in this field.
Yeah.
Arkansas veteran. He has made so many great improvements. He is positionally like an excellent runner, knows like he's just across the board from an intangibles perspective is awesome. Just knows when to make the right move, is super experienced, great at positioning, has gotten better and better. He's a true miler. There's just so much about Reyna that I like that I think in a best case scenario, he gets third place.
Yeah. I think you can make that argument for a lot of people, right? I
That's
think
true. Yeah.
the third place position, I think, is very much out there. And as far as a X factor, I can make the same argument, I think, about Simeon Beerbaum. Ton of prestige from the high school ranks, putting things together fairly well. Has run 352 this year. Now, I think he's someone that I look at and it's like, hey, he might not make finals, but if he does, I think he's as talented as everyone except for two people in this field, and that leads me to think there's a pretty high ceiling for him if everything goes well.
Who was a Who was a bigger winner, by the way? I'm kind of slight tangent. When Strand and Martin
Yeah,
scratched, who was the bigger winner? I think it's probably going to be definitively Green, but like
yeah,
I ultimately what I'm trying to say here is how incredibly lucky is this for Colin Solomon, who almost certainly had in the impression of these entries being like, I'm going to do the mile 3K regardless of who does
right.
what here. But now he just gets a mile opportunity that is just as good as what the 800 opportunity could be.
Absolutely.
And now his double back to the 3K will be will be easier than it would have been for the 800. So I just can't get over how we were like 800, 800, 800, and he just happened to fluke his way into like the best, most ideal possible scenario possible.
Yeah, it's not a great field like in this mile. Obviously the times are great, but you look really below the top 6 or 7. It's not super compelling. We haven't mentioned Fawad Masaudi's name. I think he's someone that I feel very confident will finish in the top 5. I just don't love his ability to go like right with Green and Solomon once the kicking starts.
He's my wild card. He's my X factor. Great mile race earlier this season. Took down Berenbaum, ran 352. Hasn't really had that many great races since then that have been pretty underwhelming, frankly, specifically in that 3K. I also want to say that there was a Big 12 race that did not exactly pan out for him. Let me take a look real
Well, he was
quick.
second. He was second to Kip Kemboy in the mile. What
Oh,
was the
that's
other
right.
one?
That's right. Yeah, but he was a DNF in the 3K, which,
Okay,
it's the
he might
3K,
have just
whatever.
scratched. Yeah,
I think I'm thinking of the Tyson invite where he ran 7:53.
right. Yep.
And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure about like obviously we know that the best version of Masaudi is probably a top 3 runner in the NCAA right
Yeah.
now, but he's not there. He's just not there yet, and so I'm still a little trying to figure that part out. He's my X factor for this race.
I like it. All right, let's move on to the women's mile. And who is your top tier for the women? Is it one name? Is it several names? Who is in your favorites tier here?
It's Ayeldes, it's Nielsen, and it's Laura Pellicaro. Those are my 3.
Interesting. Okay. Not Appleton after the ACC title.
I'm just I think she is forever going to be a third or fourth place finisher at the national meet,
Yeah.
and there is nothing wrong with that. She would be one of the best postseason performers of this, new millennium. Um, it's hard to see her matching the upside of the three women who I just mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. I have no idea about this race. This is the one, maybe besides the DMR, women's DMR, what we talked about, that I just have the least amount of feel for. I think Ayildiz, and Nielsen and Pellicora, like you said, all have had fantastic seasons. All deserve to be in there. I think if you're looking at with a percentage chance that someone besides those top three women win, I think it's higher than almost like any other scenario that we've had in years past where we have three people in that top like favorites tier. I just think this is pretty wide open. And I say that because I don't see this being run in like a 4:25 or faster time. And if it's not, then that just leaves the door open to pretty much everybody. And now I think there's probably there's obviously I think a lot of women on the back half of this field that can't reach that. But I mean Maggie Congdon, who's run 4:27 this year. I think if she puts together a great race, she could just be a surprising like second place finisher in this field. I think Chloe Forster and Amina Matug working together. I think they could put together something really special. Judy Kosgei just put together a really nice hard charge in the ACC title. There's so many women who have run so well, and I don't have a ton of confidence in Ayildiz as her 423.4 would indicate that most people would, and I think that's why I just feel like there's a wide open kind of feel to this race.
A lot of like my picks is just, can you personally envision that woman standing on top of the podium with the other women standing by her side, like on the lower steps of the podium? And
Yeah,
and that's where I struggle with Koski. I can't. No,
no,
I just don't see that happening. Riggins and Appleton,
yeah,
maybe
I
in
think
the
you could.
world, sure. But I'm not there with Matug yet. I'm not there with Forrester yet. I'm not there with Rangel Beatrice or Morley or Carlson or Congdon or Stroberg or Scotcher, Barnett or Alder. And it just, the chances keep going down as you go. So I don't necessarily. I still need to see more from my eldest in the postseason before I can be
Yep.
like, oh, she is clearly the favorite. She's the mile collegiate record holder. I don't even know if I'm going to take her. In fact, I might even take Nielsen over her. But you run 423. I think it's undeniable that you have to be in the conversation. You just do.
I agree. And I, as far as a dark horse, I already mentioned her, but I think Maddie Congdon is mine. I just think she's flashed this potential at the outdoor national meet previously, running well right now, has the experience. I think she could put together something that surprises a lot of us.
My sleeper is Mina Scatchard of Princeton. So good. Has taken down some great names. Has run super fast. Beat Kaylee McCabe in a head to head. I just think like she had shown signs of improvement and rapid progression. I think now she has kind of proven that she belongs here. I think she'll be an All American.
Who is your X factor?
Chloe Forster, Washington. I mean, she struggled in the past year with
Yeah.
prelims and trying to get out of that in the mile and the 1500, and she was more talented than a handful of the women who made it to those finals,
Hmm.
but the execution wasn't there. I do think she's at a different level. I think she's better. I think she has shown signs of just refinement of her tactics, but I would just like to see it first before I can go any further than that.
Yeah, I think that last year was her breakout year. Now she's been there, has the experience. I would expect some bigger things. For me, I think it's honestly like Pellicoro. I'm just kind of curious to see how she runs this race on paper. She's done everything that you would expect out of a favorite, but like the thing that you were saying, like just imagining, hey, this is the person that's won. Like I'm struggling to get there for whatever reason, even though she's put together everything really well. And I'm really curious to see who is the person that like pushes the pace in this field. Does it end up being Ayildiz? But if it's not, I almost wonder if it could be Pellicoro. So I'm fascinated to see who kind of is that instigator of the pace for this race.
I I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. All right, let's move off of that. We're going to go to the 800 meters on the men's side. And Ben, I don't know if you saw because you were out last week, but
I
Aiden
did.
McCarthy, Cal Poly, 145.19 to take over the NCAA number 3 all-time indoor 800-meter spot from Georgetown's Tanoda Matsatsa. Is somewhat clearly those two as the main national title favorites, unless you like Hassan, unless you do.
No,
But
and honestly, I kind of had Matsatsa still in his own tier, despite the McCarthy. Like, yeah, 145.19 is great. It's a fantastic result. I when you're in the 800, it's so tactic driven, right? And I doing it in a time trial and doing a lot of his races in more of a time trial atmosphere this year is the only thing that kind of leads me to have a little less faith. And Matsatsu's just been so good at every step that I still think he, in my mind, is the clear favorite. Now I think McCarthy is probably in a tier of his own, and then Hassan is probably in a tier like I think it's these very small little tiers of like 1A, 1B, 1C almost. And then it's honestly like everybody else. Like there's isn't a ton of separation as you go through the rest of this field.
I agree. I think it's Matsatsa. I think Matsatsa is the favorite. I don't think anyone would be surprised if McCarthy won.
No.
I think it makes sense. Over under 145.3 is the winning time.
Ooh. I'll go over. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty quick.
These guys are so fast. The top end is so fast.
Yeah.
And just from a raw time perspective, which is why I go, I
Maybe.
wonder
Yeah.
if there's anyone that could be the aggressor, set the other guys up in an elite field. I think it's Matsatsa though. I'll take Matsatsa, but don't like feel nearly as confident about that as I would
Yeah.
before. Sleeper, who do you got?
I had, let's see, where I had Matthew Erickson. I think coming off of some good performances this past conference weekend. 146.58 so far this year. Has a lot of good experience. I like him to finish in the top 4, really, in a field where, like I said, not a whole lot of separation, and potentially top 3 if everything goes really, really well.
I don't think Dan Wacky of Villanova is a sleeper, but he's
Yeah.
really good, and I
Yeah.
really like him a lot. My sleeper, however, will be Olivier Desmueles of Penn State. I said at the beginning of the season that he is, like, from a tactical and positional perspective, way better than some people realize. He's highly underrated. He has run 146 not once this season, but twice. He's run 146.52. He ran 115 twice over 600 meters at the Big Ten Championships and has another 115 mark over 600 meters from the Penn State National Open. Across the board, I think he is extremely underrated. He's highly experienced. Did he actually win that title? He won the 600-meter title back at the Big Ten Championships. Give me Desmueles as an All-American. I like him a lot.
I like it. For my X Factor, I had Kototoi Kadali
Okay.
of Oregon, another Oregon guy. Again, comes in with a lot of pedigree from the international stage. Hasn't quite seen him at his full best. And if we do, and again, a field that feels pretty even, he could break out in a big way. But I think there's also a possibility he doesn't make finals.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, he's been weird to try to like gauge.
I have no idea.
I can't figure him out. Darius Smallwood of Penn State, another Penn State guy here. Started the season by running 146.55 and then 146.28. He was the first guy this season to run under 147 multiple times. Ran 115 for 600 meters, not once, not twice, but 3 times this season, including the Big Ten prelims. And then he ran 148 at Valentine. And he was a DNF over 800 meters at the Penn State tune-up. Maybe as a pacer, who knows? And then he got 4th over 600 meters at the Big Ten Championships. And he hasn't really been trending the right way. And yet, you look at the first half of his season, you're like, this guy's an All-American lock at this point. I do question how is he going to fare against this kind of field that's just frankly going to be overwhelming for a lot of guys who are just inexperienced and just less proven in this field. And so he's kind of my dark horse of like, I know you're capable of being an All-American. Is your inexperience going to hold you back in this kind of setting?
Absolutely. Let's move on to the women's 800 meter. And I think for me, it is just one favorite, and that's Juliet Whitaker. I think there's another tier of contenders behind her, but in my mind, it's her and then everyone else.
Can I do the 1A, 1B?
Yeah, I see. This feels a little different. There feels a little like a slightly more separation between her and
Yeah.
everyone else
Yeah,
than maybe some
you're
of the other
right.
ones.
I'll take Whitaker as the outright favorite. I don't like it, but I think she's deserved it. I think she's the outright favorite.
Yep.
I think Rose and I think Megan Hunter. I'm not quite confident that Jalo can quite win this race yet, but I think Rose and maybe Megan Hunter are capable of getting in there. But I think Whitaker, you're right. Just the flat out better half
Yep.
miler. And I have nothing more to say other than that. She's just better, and point blank, period.
Absolutely. As far as a sleeper, this one was hard for me. Did you have anybody that you liked as a sleeper here?
No.
I had Chip
I,
McGinich, but I don't love that.
are we counting Rasheen Willis as a sleeper?
Well, so that's I think that's we need to have that conversation, right? Just coming off of a ACC title in the 800, hasn't looked at her best, but you could make an argument that she's almost in that next tier just based off of experience, history, seemingly peaking at the right time. But I think if you want to say, hey, she's 10th on the performance list, she qualifies as sleeper, I wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, I struggle there. I see, like I would have said Star Price, but she didn't have a great showing at ACCs. Victoria Bossong and Michaela Page, are they really, sleepers at this point? Like I don't know if they necessarily qualify as sleepers. And so I'm kind of look like Haley Kitching. I don't love what I've seen from her recently in the last couple of weeks. I'm not super excited. And the last few women, from like spots 12 to 16 are just not nearly as proven as maybe a handful of others. So I guess Willis. I guess Willis is my sleeper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't hate that. As far as an X factor, I have Michaela Rose. I don't know, like she's been looking so much better. She looks like she is almost at her best. But the reason why she's an X factor is I'm curious to see how she runs this. Right? Does she
Yeah.
do her front running style, knowing that maybe she's not at her peak fitness, knowing that Whitaker has been able to match her every single time she's run that way. I'm fascinated to see what we get from Rose in this race.
I think she takes over the lead with 600 meters to go, one lap in. I think she's continued to do that. It
Yeah,
just the races have been closer, and yet she's still
right.
just been able to hang on. And I think that's an encouraging sign. I think Rose will be the aggressor. I don't think that's really much of a question for me. Um, but in terms of like others, I think Gladys Cheptegei is my X factor. She's my dark
Hmm.
horse. Of like, I don't really know what I'm going to get from her, but she's run 239 for 1,000 meters. She's run 159 before. She is, from a raw talent perspective, capable of getting top three, top four. But is she going to execute? Struggling in the postseason last year. She's new. She's an international name, still new to the NCAA scene. Understandable, but what does this year look like? What's different? And so I'm going to say Chip Nagetic just because I really don't know what she's capable of, but or at least how she'll execute.
Yeah.
But her upside is almost as good as anyone else.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's kind of why I had her in that sleeper zone of just like, hey, if everything comes together, then all of a sudden she could be way higher up and on the
Yeah.
podium than what we expected. So let's move on to our last event, and that is the 3K. And we'll start on the men's side in an absolutely loaded field. Now that we have Ethan Strand and Gary Martin coming into this fresh for at least the day. You have Parker Wolf, who's also run 7:30. Is it Strand and Martin and everybody else, or do we still put Wolf in this
Still put
category?
Wolf. We
Okay.
still put Wolf. He hasn't hurt his stock. He hasn't really given us a reason to like take him out of that. He's going to have fresher legs compared to a handful of these guys who might be coming back from the 5K, right?
Yep.
Um, so I still think Wolf is in there. Gun to your head, who are you taking?
Strand.
Yeah, Strand. Agreed. But it's those three.
Yeah, I completely agree. Let's move on to sleeper. Who is your sleeper in this field?
Do you have one?
Yeah, I had Adam Spencer. He's the
Yeah.
16th guy, just qualified. He's going to be coming into it pretty fresh. He'll probably have a mile on his legs from the DMR the night before. But you look at like some of these other guys who have been running the 5K or the mile earlier. I just think he's going to, and again, he hasn't been at his best this year, but we're still talking about someone who's run what, 331, 332 in the 1500. Like, the talent is still very much there in a bigger way than almost anyone in this field.
Is Luke T-Walt of Wake Forest a sleeper?
So I had him in the next category actually because I like him a lot as well.
I like Spencer. I think Spencer would have also been my sleeper pick. Like, hey, yeah, you're the last seed in, and yes, you owe a very kind thank you basket, a fruit basket to Nathan Green for scratching from this event. But like his pedigree is insane. His credentials are insane. He just has to have one good race, and he's just as good as anyone else. I man, I don't know. I guess Sands, Colton Sands, underrated, consistently
Yep.
getting better, consistent, surprised us with this 3K, but has just like checked off every box that you could ask for him. And it's hard to kind of look at him and see his name like next to all of these guys.
Hmm.
It feels a little uncomfortable, and yet you don't really have a reason to argue against him. I'll take Sands as my sleeper, but I don't feel good about it.
For my X Factor, like I said, I had Luke T. Walt. I again think he's just an interesting guy when you're looking at what he's done this year. He has shown like he's very capable in the 15 and the 5K. 3K seems like it would be like his perfect event. He's going to be coming into this fairly fresh. Like I think now, is he able to meet the top end fitness that a lot of these other guys could have? I think that's where the question mark is. But he's been running exceptionally well this year. I really like his chances to finish in the top 5 this week.
How surprised would you be if Hampton Samuel won the 3K title?
Oh, like just floored.
There's like, so you think he has zero shot?
No, I there's no way in my mind.
I'm going to take him as my sleeper, as my X factor, my wild card. Him and Ishmael Kipkiri of New Mexico, but both of them of New Mexico. The win that he had at the Husky Classic in the 3K,
Yeah,
you beat
yeah, that's
Nico
true.
Young, you run 7:39. He goes on run 13:04. Maybe that was beforehand, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I hate that he's coming back off the 5K. At the very least, I think those New Mexico guys are going to at least impact this race in a way that is more substantial than maybe we realize.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Let's finish up with the women's 3K. And is there one clear favorite in your mind, or is this one where, hey, there's a couple people in this group?
I can't believe I'm saying this. I think it's wide
Yeah.
open. Like
Yep.
wide open. I think Halliday Lowry can win the national title. I think Riley Chamberlain can win the national title. I think Doris Lemngole can win the national title. I think Shannon Flockhart, Caleb McCabe can win the national title. Maybe.
I would put
There's a
Amy
lot of
Bunnage in
women.
there as well, honestly.
Maybe. I'm just. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's wide open. I really do.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think if you had to pick, I think Halliday Lowry in my mind is that person. And I think Chamberlain is number 2. I think if I had to bet, it's BYU that takes home the title. But I agree. I think you can make a lot of really good arguments for a lot of these women. I mean, we've seen Grace Hartman run really, really well. She's someone that I have as a sleeper because again, she's going to be coming back from a 5K, but I mean, she's run way better in the mile than I think we both thought she could ever do. And I think that sets her up to exceed expectations in the 3K. And yeah, I mean, you look at almost like all the women in the bottom half of this group, you're like, Oh yeah, they could all absolutely be All-Americans.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's like I don't feel confident taking a sleeper pick because I don't know if any of these women are really sleepers.
Yeah.
Like I guess Hannah Gates in the 16th seed, but she's been running exceptionally well. 428 split on the
Yeah.
ACC DMR for NC State, ran 848. Like she's been getting better and better as the season progressed. I'll take Gapes as my sleeper pick. I really like where she's been trending towards lately. But it doesn't feel like any of these women are sleepers. I legit. Is there anyone who you would be legitimately surprised to see earn All American honors?
No.
Anyone?
No,
No.
maybe let's see. Maybe like Appleton after doubling back from the mile.
I mean, she ran 851 after doubling
Yeah.
back from the mile in
Yeah,
ACCs.
but
Like, and
I
that's
really
why.
outside of that, I mean, really not. I mean, not really. I mean, everybody else. This is. Would we say this is the best field out of the national championships? Is this women's 3K field?
Mm. I'm gonna go 5K. I think the 5K is better.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a compelling argument for either, honestly, because yeah, this is just a very. It's not quite as maybe top heavy, but 1 through 16 is as good as you'll probably see in really any national championship. Who is your X factor wild card?
I, I have no. I guess Kimberly May. I feel like
Yeah,
Kimberly, the 3K was the like her best race of the season. She ran 844. She's going to be comparatively fresher than some of the women here, like Halliday Lowry, like Stearns, like Lemengole, like Kennedy, like Bonner Kosgei, Matug, Appleton, Aildes, Hartman. And so from that reason, I look at that. Noe, she's going to be comparatively fresher by just
yeah,
the amount of racing distance that she's already clocked. She's going to be comparatively fresher. The 3K has been like her best race this season. I think her skill set tactically suits her. I think we know her pedigree, how good she can be, even if she didn't have a great 3K race at the Big East Championships. I think there's a really big opportunity here for her to earn a high All-American finish, but she's my X factor because I really don't know what to expect from her.
for me, it's Lemngole. I know we've kind of talked about her as like, hey, she's 3K is probably not her best event, but she's just all she's done is go out and win in the 3K, and usually against really good competition. Does she again try to push the pace like she normally does and push the envelope and like can anybody hang if she does do that in a national championship? I very interested and if she can't get away from everybody, like there's a lot of people that probably could hang with her. How far does she end up falling back if she pushes the pace for 2,600 meters and there's 5 women with her right there? Like how does she end up finishing? I think she's someone that I think has a surprisingly high amount of volatility for someone at her level.
So you think that Lemengole, in the way that she approaches this race, could alter the outcome of what the final results look like?
I think so. Yeah.
For everyone else, I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because
I don't
again,
disagree with
I
that.
think there's some women that like, I think Chamberlain's someone that probably, although she's run 840, I think she probably is looking at this field and saying, hey, if this ends up being an 855 race, I like my chances a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It's
I
gonna
don't
be
hate
fascinating.
that. Well, because she's also going to be fairly fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it by that perspective that she's the favorite?
I think you
From
could
a
make an argument
freshness.
for her. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think Chamberlain and Holiday Lowry for me are like probably the top 2.
What a weird year for these
Yeah,
fields.
it's strange.
Weird. All right, I think that's it. I think that's all I
Yeah.
got.
That's it. Those were all the 5 main events on both the men and women's side. So much to talk about. Sorry if we did not say your name during this. Make sure you go read our previews, which we do have something on every single name that is competing. It's going to be a great national championship. Make sure you are following along with all the event by event previews that we're going to be putting out this week. And then we'll have you covered with first thoughts next weekend. We'll have you covered with the podcast. And then we're end of season. We're gonna have a ton of content coming over the next week and a half. Just buckle up, pray for Garrett's sanity, and you will enjoy everything you get from us.
Yeah, predictions. Those are going to be coming some point. Oh, I got to get those out to the writers. But yeah, it's going to be. I just had a moment there. Oh no. But yeah, really excited. Shout out to On. Thank you to On. Got a lot more content related to On coming soon. But in the meantime, Ben, that is all I've got.
All right. Till next week. I'll talk to you.
I'll talk to you.